But for now, we'll take a look into how Malaysia is attracting a total of 42 billion ringgit in approved investments in the manufacturing, services and primary sectors. This involves about 910 projects in January to March 2022, or the first quarter. And according to MIDA, the Malaysian Investment Development Authority, it was 47% lower compared with the 80.6 billion ringgit achieved in the first quarter of last year. We talked to the Deputy CEO of Investment Promotion and Facilitation of MIDA, Siva, Suriya, Moorthy, Sundara Raja, on some of the issues involving this. Take a look.
The first quarter investment, actually we already announced, so total investments that we approved in the economy was 42.8 billion ringgit Malaysia. This is the total investment we approved in all three sectors of the economy, manufacturing, services as well as primary sectors. And again, I would say manufacturing sector has assumed an important role as almost 30 billion of that investment actually came from the manufacturing sector. So I think it will continue to become the sector that attracts the largest investment. And another point that I would like to stress is that the foreign direct investments accounts almost 65% of the total investment that we approve. And the balance, of course, is a domestic investment. Now that indicates that despite pandemic, and with the closure of the borders in the first quarter of this year, we managed to actually attract quite a high level of foreign direct investment. And of course, the border was only open in 1st April of this year. And of course, the question now is, would we be able to attract high level of investments in the coming months? If you look at the projected growth rate by Bank Negara, it is projected that the economic growth for this year would be in the region of 5.3 to I think 6.1%. And of course, by the S&P global ratings, they have also indicated that our growth rate for this year would be around I think 6.1%. And what is more important is that in the next 3 years, S&P global ratings have indicated that our growth rate would be in the region of I think 4.7%. Now, what does that indicate? That indicates that actually we would be able to attract more investments coming into Malaysia. And of course, I think MIDA will intensify our efforts. So some of the programs that we put in place last year, such as Trade and Investment Mission headed by our minister, will continue this year. There will be a number of specific project missions that will be undertaken by MIDA. This is by the various industries division in MIDA. They are the subject matter experts. And of course, there will also be several task force that will be headed by MIDA management. This is actually to conclude some deals, and also to provide some offer letters to potential investors. So we are optimistically, maybe cautiously optimistic, I would say, to further attract a high level of investments into Malaysia. With regards to challenges, I think challenges are always there. Last year was the worst, I would say. But despite that, I think MIDA came up with this, what you call one-stop center to attract investments. I'm not very sure whether you are aware, or you are very familiar with the one-stop center, whereby we allow for foreign investors to come in without quarantine, maximum of 14 days. So that initiative has actually, I would say, has assisted Malaysia to attract a high level of investment in the first quarter of this year. Bearing in mind that that was with the closure of the border. So with 1st April, we foresee that we should be able to actually conclude more deals. Now there are two important data that we should also look at when we are looking at the the potential investment coming to Malaysia. One is the number of investment that currently MIDA has received. These are the potential investment which are being currently evaluated. That investment figure is, I think, about 15 billion worth of investment, which means we have received, it is being evaluated, and it will be approved in the coming weeks and months. That is number one. Of course, from now till end of this year, there will be many more applications coming in. And number two is the projects that MIDA is currently negotiating. These are what we call leads. So in total, we have about investment figure would be 150 billion worth of investment. These are the very high level leads which we target yeah, to actually to conclude and to secure them by this year. Yeah? So it's actually based on this data that I would say that we are quite optimistic, yeah, to attract high level of investments into Malaysia. Actually, from our point of view, we always look at what's really happening with regards to, let's say, companies operating in, let's say, in Eastern European countries, where we have already received inquiries whereby companies would like to either expand their operation or redeploy their production capacity, or even in some cases actually to relocate their investments to this part of the world. Yeah? And if you were to look at what they call the crisis, China and US, the trade tension, MIDA immediately put in place strategy to actually to position Malaysia as what they call alternative supply chain hub. Yeah? This is actually to stabilize and also to ensure that the supply chain is reliable. Yeah? So in that sense, I think we will do the same in this case, but it's yet to be seen, I would say. Yeah? And I think we will continue to position Malaysia as a regional global supply chain hub, and that is very important. Yeah? And you will find that a lot of companies are now looking at Malaysia and setting up Malaysia, what they call operational headquarters in Malaysia, principal hub activities, and more importantly also as a regional distribution hub. Yeah? Some of the latest projects that I can highlight here would be IKEA, a regional distribution hub, yeah, in Pulau Indah. I think they will be servicing 26 markets from Malaysia. And of course the project by Volkswagen. As you know, Volkswagen have set up their regional distribution hub in Malaysia for parts and components for, I believe, 6 of their models: Porsche, MAN, Volkswagen. That's one. And of course the latest project is by Mercedes. Yeah? Mercedes have also decided to set up their regional distribution hub for parts and components, yeah, in Malaysia as well. So more and more companies will be setting up their logistic hub in Malaysia, yeah, to actually to service their market in the region. Yeah? So we'll continue to do so.